Before we get into today's video, I did want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. Before we go any further, I did want to stop and thank today's sponsor, Teamy. Thank you so much, Teamy, for sponsoring today's video. I am back at it again with another green tea mask. Y'all know I love this mask. I've been using this mask for well over a year now. I was out in the sun yesterday and I feel like my skin has gotten a bit inflamed, and so it is a perfect time for a mask. Teamy's green tea mask, which happens to be my favorite mask, is 100% clean, made in small batches and cruelty-free. It's made with organic green tea, lemongrass, and bentonite clay. They formulate this natural detoxifying mask to get rid of pores, impurities, while replenishing the skin with necessary superfood and nutrients. Now I'm gonna let this mask dry on my face for about 10 to 15 minutes while I go do some things around the house. Then I'll come and wipe it off and you guys are gonna see the difference in my skin. Lord, it needed it. All right, it is good and dry. You guys, it is so tight, I can barely move my lips. Do you see this? Look. Oh my goodness. I know when I get this off, my skin is gonna be like, now I'm about to take a warm rag and wipe this off. Ooh, wait till you guys see. My face and skin feels so smooth and gentle and soft. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to put my hands on it. I'm about to moisturize and then put some sunblock on, and I am ready for the day. And now it's all done, you guys. I wish so bad you guys could just feel my skin. If you could feel my skin, you would know exactly what I'm talking about, and you'd run out and get you one of these masks real quick. You guys, it's so smooth and it feels so cool and refreshed. From earlier, it was very dry and it was inflamed, and it just feels so much better now. I'm about to put my moisturizer on and start my day. So thank you so much, Teamy, for sponsoring today's video. You guys don't forget to get your mask by clicking the link down in the description box and using code RANDALL20 so you can get your discount today. All right, back to the video. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the story about Precious Doe. Have y'all heard about this situation? This is a story of a precious little girl. Precious is the perfect name for her, whose actual name was Erica Green, who was unidentified for about 4 years. Now, if you guys don't know, typically when authorities cannot identify a person, whether they're alive, whether they're in jail, no matter what, if they cannot identify the person, they typically label the males John Doe and the females Jane Doe. But in this situation, this was a 3-year-old baby girl, and so they labeled her as Precious Doe, and very precious she was. Precious Doe was born as Erica Michelle Marie Green. She was born in May of 1997 to her mom, Michelle Johnson, and her father, Larry Green. Now, during the time of Erica's birth, her mother, Michelle, was actually in prison. She was in prison for larceny, and I'd also heard that she had some forgery and some theft charges as well, but larceny for sure. And Erica's father was actually in prison during the same time. So Larry and Michelle actually have 5 children together, and Erica was the youngest of the 5. Michelle had 8 children in total, but she only had 5 with Larry. Michelle was in prison for about 1 month when she went into labor with Erica. Now, she didn't really have anybody to take Erica, so she had reached out to Larry, the father's grandmother, and her grandmother had a friend named Betty Brown. Betty Brown at this time was almost 70 years old and was just kind of living her life at this point. She was very much involved in the church. She was very much involved in like the neighborhood children. And I thought I read somewhere too that she fostered kids, but nevertheless, Betty Brown did not know Michelle Johnson herself. She didn't know her, but she knew of her from her friend, and that was her granddaughter, and She said, sure, I will come and get the baby and I will take care of her. So literally within hours of Erica being born, Miss Betty was up there. And guys, I can just imagine, I mean, this woman's almost 70, you guys, coming and getting a newborn baby. Okay, those of y'all in y'all's 20s and 30s, a newborn baby is work, honey. I don't care. It is work. And here she goes, traveling right on up there to the prison and right on up there to the hospital and got this baby. Betty loved Erica. She provided her with the best life she possibly could. Lots of love, took her to church with her. Everybody at church would just like gush over how adorable she was. As Erica started to get a little bit older, learn to walk, learn to talk, Erica loved to sing. She loved her dollies. She had a doll named Angelica that Erica named her little baby doll, Angelica. And Betty said that Erica was always smiling and always happy. Betty would later say that she didn't know much about Michelle at all, but she knew that she asked her to come get her baby, and so she did. Michelle ended up serving about 6 months total at this time. So about 5 months after Betty got Erica, she got out of prison. Now, Betty went up to the prison, picked Michelle up, and took her to a family member's house and dropped her off. And Betty took little Erica back home with her. Betty would later say that Michelle never showed any interest in raising Erica and taking care of her. She said that she would come and visit her very rarely, and when she did, she didn't stay long at all. And Betty would also say that she actually had no desire in having a relationship with Michelle because Michelle was living a very different life than she was living. And from what I read, my assumption is that Michelle was on drugs. She was living that street life and all of that there. And y'all know how the older generation is too. They're like, I don't got nothing for her. I ain't got nothing for her. She living that life. I ain't got nothing for her. Now, I don't know if she said that, but that's the envision that I get because I know what I know. Betty would dress Erica up in all of these cute little dresses. I'm talking about with the bows and the like white frillies and everything, and took her to church with her in her Sunday best and was just loved this baby girl. Now around this time, Erica is about 3 years old, okay? She has had her and raised her since hours after she was born, and the baby girl is 3 now. In April of 2001, Michelle comes to Betty and says, I want to take Erica to a family reunion. I'm going to take her there. All of her little cousins are going to be there. She's going to get to meet people and play with people. And Betty was hesitant at first. However, you know, that's her daughter. She was thinking like, you know, who am I to hold her back? Whatever. Okay, you can take her. And Michelle was going to take her for just the weekend. And they were going to go over to Oklahoma City. Betty packed her a bag, gave Erica her favorite little Teletubby that she slept with every single night. And she put her Easter dress, because Easter was coming up, she hung it up for her when she got back so she could wear a little Easter dress to church with Miss Betty in the whole 9 yards. She sent her off with her mother. That would be the last time that Miss Betty ever saw little baby Erica again. Michelle would later return back to Muskogee, and she did not have Erica with her. People would ask questions. Betty asked her, hey, where's Erica? Easter rolls around. She's not there. She's not there to have her little dress. She's not there to live her life with Miss Betty. And every time she asked her, Michelle, she gave her a different story. Okay. Oh, she's with my sister today. Oh, she's with my mother today, her other grandmother. She always gave her another excuse. And I saw some interviews with Miss Betty, and there's some on YouTube. They're very, very, very short. And I just probably get the drift that like, she really felt like she couldn't do anything. You know, it wasn't her biological child. She hadn't adopted her. She was just taking care of her. And so all she could do was just hope and pray that Erica was going to come back. But one thing that Miss Betty said, she never thought that anything would physically be done to Erica. She said, not in a million years would anybody hurt that baby, that precious baby. Nobody would ever hurt her. So she wasn't concerned with that. As time continued to go on, the family would continue to ask Michelle, different family members now at this point, where is Erica? And she always gave another excuse. The family was not too rattled by it because Michelle had 8 children and she didn't have any of them with her. All of her children were at different homes, and so Erica, in their minds, was just another one. But where was Erica? If her sister didn't actually have Erica, if her mother didn't actually have Erica, where was she? The weekend that Michelle had picked Erica up from Miss Betty's house, her and her then boyfriend at the time's name was Harold Johnson, who would later become her husband, but hang with me here. It is said that Michelle met Harold while she was into prostitution. So that also makes me think that she was probably into drugs as well. I don't know for sure, but I'm putting all the pieces together, okay? So she met Harold while she was in that way, and he became her boyfriend. He had a little girl too. And so he got his little girl with him, and she decided she was going to go pick up her little baby girl, Erica, and she went and got Erica. Them 4 went to Kansas City and went to go stay with Harold's cousins. This is the point that Michelle and Harold would later say that they got into substances. You guys, we'll keep going here, but this is when they say they got into the substances. And then we're going to fast forward to April 28th of 2001, which was a few weeks later after Michelle had picked up Erica Green from Betty's house. A man in Kansas City called the cops and said, hey, listen, I've got this elderly friend of mine. He's a neighbor. I have not seen him. He tends to wander off. Can you check over in this wooded area? Can you check over in these areas? I just want to make sure he's okay. I need to do a welfare check. I haven't seen him. I can't find him. Can you help me out? The police said yes. They went down to this wooded area that was over kind of by a church and by Hibbs Park, and they started searching the area looking for this elderly man. While they were searching for him, they got a call in that said that the elderly man was found. They was like, great, nothing to see here, nothing else to do. As the cops started to walk out, they noticed something that was a little bit suspicious. What they saw was a decapitated body of a little girl that was obviously deceased laying there. The cops being horrified by the sight. I mean, this is a little girl's body, completely undressed. It had no clothes on, but missing the head. The investigators, obviously, they start working very quickly. They get crime scene out there. They are beside themselves. Like, whose little girl is this? Like, who's missing their child? Where is her head at? Like, it was a mess. On May 1st of 2001, just about 3 days later, they found the baby girl's head in a trash can, in a trash bag, with an ashtray about 200 yards away from where they found the body. They tested the ashtray for DNA, and they were not able to find any DNA or any fingerprints on it. The investigators would later determine or believe that this baby girl had been beaten with this ashtray because the bruises and the marks that she had on her body were brutal. I mean, the damage she had in her skull and in her head, it was pretty bad to read about. It's so devastating what this baby girl had went through before she passed and then after she passed as well. Unfortunately, though, the investigators or the cops, none of them could figure out who this baby girl belonged to. And this is when they named her Precious Doe. So Erica's name now had been given by the cops, Precious Doe. Now, this time the cops started speaking out, and they're thinking that they're not going to have any problem finding out who this baby girl is, because obviously some mama out there or some daddy out there don't have their daughter, and they're probably at the police station right now looking for their baby girl. So they're thinking, okay, it's not going to be too hard to find out who this baby girl belongs to. However, nobody came forward and nobody had reported this 3-year-old little girl missing. So as the media got involved, the community got involved. And you guys, when I tell y'all the community in Kansas City band together for this baby girl, like, I want to move to Kansas City. Y'all live in Kansas City because y'all are amazing there. They raised money. They made flyers. I'm talking about they gave a funeral for this baby girl. Precious Doe was who the funeral was for. And over 200 people showed up to this baby girl's funeral to honor her. Oh my gosh, I have chills. Like, amazing. There was even a man named Alonzo that got involved, and he raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in reward money. I mean, they band together about this. The lead investigator on this case set a plate at his dinner table for Precious Doe every single night and promised to do that until her identity was found and they could figure out who she was. They raised money and gave her a beautiful tombstone under Precious Doe, and they had what they thought was her pictures involved. And at this point, I mean, they were running this case on America's Most Wanted, on cold cases, TV shows. They were releasing what they believed were sketches of this baby girl and what she would look like in the future or what she possibly looked like in the past. I mean, the word spread so fast that this was a nationwide case, and so many people were involved in trying to identify who this baby girl was. They even started creating like sculptures of her and tried to put it out there because they couldn't identify her. 4 years later, from when that body was found in that wooded area, the investigators get the tip of a lifetime. The grandfather of Harold Johnson, and Harold is the guy that was originally the boyfriend of Michelle, Erica Green's mother, but they got married a year after Erica passed away. So she passed away and then they get married. So now it's Michelle Johnson and it's Harold Johnson. Thurman McIntosh, which was Harold Johnson's father, who was in his 80s, was in contact with the police for over a year. Now, I've read different things. I've read that he continued to reach out for over a year and that all of the tips were not followed through with because tips were coming in from everywhere. I mean, they were getting tips that this baby girl was a missing child from down in Jamaica. They were getting tips that this was a missing child in New York. But actually, that situation had happened right there in Kansas City. And she was originally living in Muskogee with Miss Betty Brown. So, I mean, they were so overwhelmed with tips that they weren't able to follow through with every single one of them. Nevertheless, he had been in contact some way, somehow for over a year. And he told the police that he had a strong feeling that this was his grandson's wife's daughter, his grandson's actual now stepdaughter. And they wanted to know why he thought that. And he said, well, you know, they've come around and she was missing. They wouldn't tell us where she is. And so I began to listen to how they talked. Thurman told investigators that he became very, very suspicious that this Precious Doe could be his grandson's stepdaughter when he overheard Michelle and Harold talking one time. He said that he questioned them, but they didn't say anything else, but little things that they heard them talking about, and they were referring to Precious Doe. He then later said that in April of 2004, while his grandson was actually in jail, and Michelle was in jail at that time as well, Harold was writing his grandfather. And in the letters, he would say little things about how, like, he was concerned because Michelle knew something about him that could put him in prison for life. And he just thought about these things over and over and over and over again. Like he just couldn't believe that it could be it. But man, everything was pointing that Precious Doe could possibly be Michelle's daughter. When Harold got out of jail that time, Mr. Thurman said that he began to work on his grandson. He was grilling him. He was asking him questions. And then he said that Harold went to Michelle right in front of him and said, "Why did you tell Grandpa?" Mr. Thurman said that when he said that to Michelle, he ate him up, meaning he chewed him out. He went off on him. And when Mr. Thurman later asked, do you feel bad about telling on your grandson? He said, "No, I do not." He said, "That's my grandson. I love him and he's blood, but what he did was wrong." And he literally said, "You do the crime, you do the time." He said that he was getting older and sick and he just couldn't take that to his grave and on his heart, that he needed to tell somebody. So at this point, when the investigators are talking to Mr. Thurman, they actually drove to his house and wrote all this down, recorded it and everything. And they're like, okay, we're about to finally be able to identify this, little girl for sure. At this time now, by the time they did this, they were back in jail, picked up on warrants. Michelle and Harold are back in jail this time on warrants. They go into the jail and they pull Michelle down first and they start questioning her. They didn't have to pressure her too much before she finally admitted, yes, that was her daughter. Yes, that she was killed. And she began to tell them what happened. Her story at this time was that back in April of 2001, while they were staying at that house, Harold was not only drunk, but he was high on PCP. Okay. She didn't say nothing about her, but she said he was high on PCP. She said that it was Harold's daughter, and little Erica Green, 3-year-old Erica Green. She said that she was getting ready to go get into the shower, and Michelle told little Erica to go to bed. She said she was standing up, playing around or whatever, and that she told her to go to bed. And she went in and laid down. She went and got into the shower, and when she came back out of the shower, she said that Erica was standing up. She came out and she asked Harold, why is she standing up? I told her to go to bed. She said that Harold said, because I told her to stand up. Michelle said she looked at Harold and said, no, that's my daughter. I control her. And she pointed at his daughter and said, that's your daughter. You control her. I said for her to lay down. She said then that Harold stood up and kicked her in the head. And when he kicked her in the head, she fell down and she fell unconscious. This was her story at first. Okay? So hang with me there because we're going to get to more in a minute, but this was her story. Then she said when Erica, fell out unconscious, she went and picked her up, took her into the bathroom, ran some cold water, put her in a cold bathtub, trying to wake her up. They tried to feed her. She wouldn't, move or anything. They laid her down. And then she said within about 10 hours, Erica was dead. She said at this time that her and Harold had warrants out for their arrest and they did not want to go to jail. And so they decided that they were going to cover it up some way, somehow. The next day, they took a baby stroller, put Erica's little body in it with a pair of hedge clippers, as well as an ashtray, as well as the black garbage bags. And they went down to that wooded area. And this is where Harold removed Erica's head from her body. And in their minds at the time, they thought that that was going to help them not get caught. Michelle said she removed Erica's clothes from her so she could not be identified, and they put her body in one place and they put her head in another place. After she told them this, they had showed her a picture of Erica in order to identify her. She took the picture, she started crying and saying, my baby girl, I love you so much. You were the light of my life. You were my whole heart. All of that stuff. And then she flipped the picture over and she wrote on the back of it, Mama, I love you so much, and wrote her like a little note. Let's keep going here. Then Michelle asks the investigators if she can tell Harold and confront him herself. Now, this is what they say. I think they worked out a deal to try to get him to admit it, but her story, or their story that was released, was that she wanted to confront him herself. Okay, we're going to roll with that then. They pull Harold down and she tells him right then and there, I've told them everything, Harold starts crying. He cries. He admits to everything.
Who's responsible for her death? Is there anything else that you would like to add in your statement? How did this go for PCP that day?
He says he's so sorry. He starts looking at Michelle and says, I'm going to get you out of this. I'm going to take all the blame on myself so you don't get into any trouble. And, it was all me. Okay. Sends them back up there. They're both charged. Both of them are charged. And they get ready to start going to trial. At this point, now they're in jail for this. And now we have the identification of Precious Doe. This is precious little Erica Green that had her whole entire life ahead of her, who was loved and could have been anything she wanted to be. Ugh. It's so disgusting, you guys. The autopsy reports come back and they said a little bit different than what Michelle gave as her story. Now, when Harold admitted it, he said that Erica laid there alive for almost 2 days before she passed away. Okay, Michelle said 10 hours. He said it was almost 2 days. So their stories contradicted each other there a little bit. But nevertheless, when they did an autopsy on this baby girl, she hadn't been kicked just one time. She had a hematoma in her head. She had so much brutal damage to her body. It was not just one kick. She had been beaten to death. It had come out later on that what had happened was that he had beat her with the ashtray and so many brutal and gruesome things before they did what they did with the rest of her body. They took her lifeless body down there to the park and literally, like, what kind of psychopath do you have to be to actually take hedge clippers and do that to an animal? Anything, I can't comprehend that. Maybe y'all can, but I just cannot understand. And then the mother went and married this man a year later, okay? It didn't matter that they were doing in this life of crime or, any of that, or even the fact that he had killed her daughter, but then he took hedge clippers and removed her. You know what I mean? I don't want to keep saying it over and over again. And then you marry him a year later? Ugh. Long story short, she ends up testifying against him in court.
I put her in the bathtub. She didn't get up. She didn't respond. She didn't wake up. So I took her out the bathroom and then I laid her on the floor.
So she can get a plea deal. She got 25 years for that, which we're getting closer. We're getting closer now because that was back in the earlier 2000s and we're getting on into the 2020s, nevertheless. And Harold got life without the possibility of parole. We would think that that would be okay, right? Well, since then, Harold has come back. And there is actually little bits and pieces of him on YouTube. I've watched these interviews and I will leave my sources linked down below where he's like crying to the camera and saying,
Today at his sentencing, Arell Johnson claimed he did not receive a fair trial and denied killing Erica.
Well, you people don't know me. You just know what these people then cooked up and what I was forced to say. That's all you know. But never once have I harmed a hair on her head or did anything to hurt her.
That he was pressured into making that confession. He would never touch Erica Green. He would never hurt a hair on her head, and that none of it's true and he didn't do it. Well, when he tried to go back to the court, the judge told him basically that he was a non-feeling sociopath who would not take responsibility for what he did.
He wants to say he didn't have in his rights and how his rights were denied, but he denied the rights of a 3-year-old child. We don't have to worry about what's going to happen to him because at this point, he's going to have to answer to the man upstairs. That's going to be his judge.
And basically just threw it on out. And now, he's trying to continuously come back to court and trying to get out of it, which I've told you guys in tons of my videos. If y'all are faithful watchers of my videos, and if you are, big hugs to you. I love y'all because we all know I'm a hot mess. Okay, so thank you for being here. Lord, thank you. But I've told you guys that once people start sitting in the beginning, it's all, I want to do the right thing. I want to do this, baby. They get in there for about 3, 4, 5 years and they realize they are never getting out. Their stories start changing. We've seen it with Chris Watts. We see it over and over and over again. Okay, so I am not surprised that he is trying to say he didn't have nothing to do with it now, but whatever. Some real quick final thoughts here. One being, I kind of teeter on my opinion about legalizing substances because I know that there are some countries where that works. It's legal there, then the crime rate and the drug use is actually much lower because of that, the percentage or per capita, all that good jazz, whatever. And so I always kind of teeter with should it be decriminalized? I mean, it's your body, it's your choice, whatever. But then when I hear stories like this, it makes me go, no, because you know what? When you have substances like this, like PCP, where you hallucinate and all, it doesn't even really matter. As much as I know about PCP, I'll be honest with you guys, is what I've seen on the movie Friday. Have y'all seen that? That's about as much as I know, but I wouldn't want somebody on that stuff raising my kids or babysitting my kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just you that can be hurt. It could be other people, children, other people, whatever. So, and my other final thought with this was about the lady, Miss Betty Brown. She was so sweet. Why do people do that? If you know. Now, listen, I am all about reuniting the child with the biological parents if the person is actually clean and they're doing the right things. And then I guess at the same time, if you have a person that is not in their right mind, then they will think that they can do it even though they can't. But oh my gosh, I just don't understand. I don't understand. I can't imagine how high you can be to marry a person a year later after they do that to your child. I don't think there's enough drugs in the world. I mean, what do y'all think? I mean, I don't know, you guys. It's terrible. But at the end of the day, the community still celebrates Precious Doe or Erica Green. I saw a video on YouTube where it was like a news reporting where they were celebrating her 20th birthday. I mean, they had people from the community out there with balloons, and they have vowed to not let her death be in vain and to always share her memory in a positive light. And so even though her mother may not have protected her and her father couldn't because he was in prison, now he is out, and I did read that he's trying to, I guess, sue somebody about this whole situation, failure to protect his daughter or whatever. I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't really have any opinions on that because I don't know enough about him. But what I will say is that the community has really band together, as well as Miss Betty Brown, to honor this baby girl forever. So what do you guys think? Have y'all heard about this story? If you need a reminder to get out of an abusive relationship, this is it. If you need a sign, this is your sign. Nobody, when they stay in abusive relationships or when they forgive that person just one more time, when you give that just one more chance, I'm going to give them just one more chance. Nobody ever thinks that that one more chance is going to be their last, okay? Everybody always thinks they have another chance. So again, if you're looking for your sign, this is it. As always, my loves, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please do not forget to like it. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so very much. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye. Love you guys. Bye.
We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust.